There are people who look at a billionaire sitting atop a skyscraper in New York and think, if I had that guy's wealth, all my problems would be over. What almost nobody sees is what happens when the elevator doors close, the hallway lights go out, and all that is left is the sound of your own heart beating inside an apartment that is way too big for one person. Marcus Sullivan had power, status, a last name printed on buildings and magazine covers. But on Christmas Eve, the echo of his footsteps inside his own home was louder than any laugh. He didn't lack things. He lacked people. He lacked a crowded table, a couch with no empty space, a hug waiting at the door. It was a Christmas where the world's arrogance shouted, "You won," but his chest whispered, "You lost something along the way." In the same city, just a few neighborhoods away, a 7-year-old girl was writing a very different kind of Christmas letter. No list of gifts, no video game, no new phone, no trip. Instead, a crumpled sheet of notebook paper, shaky handwriting, and a request that carried more weight than any check. "Dear Santa, please send me a dad. My mom works a lot, and she's always tired. I just want to see her smile again." In a world where so many people confuse wealth with things, that child chose to ask for a person. Instead of a toy, she asked for a lap to climb into. Instead of an object, she asked for a presence. It was the humility of someone who has almost nothing pointing without knowing it, straight at the emptiness of someone who has almost everything. But Christmas has a way of playing with coincidences that seem too small to be just chance. That letter, written in a simple apartment, crossed the building, passed through distracted hands, piles of mail, hallways where nobody notices who's cleaning the floor, until it landed exactly on the desk of the man who seemed to need it the least. A lonely billionaire, cold, surrounded by glass and targets. And that's where this story really begins. Because when the request of an invisible child collides with the sleeping heart of a powerful man, it's not just the routine that changes. An entire possible Christmas legacy starts being rewritten. Over the next few minutes, you'll follow the turning point that's born from this unlikely meeting. The girl who asked for a dad, the mother holding up the world in silence, and the rich man who discovers that no year-end bonus can buy what's missing in his own life. And maybe, while you listen, some part of your story gets nudged, right where you keep your own unspoken wishes. Marcus Sullivan was 57, and on paper, it looked like he'd beaten the game of life. From the top floors of a glass tower in Manhattan, he could see the city lit up like a board under his power. His office was fully dressed for Christmas. Flawless tree, blinking lights, a choir of carols streaming from an expensive speaker. But behind all that wealth, there was a heavy, almost embarrassing silence that even the noise of the traffic below couldn't break. The kind of silence that gives away when your soul is emptier than your schedule is full. He'd built a multi-million-dollar empire by making hard calls, sacrificing nights, weekends, birthdays, and, many times, his own humility. Over time, he got used to being the most important man in the room, the final voice, the owner of the power everyone wanted to impress. But that same path came with a steep price. His marriage fell apart in the middle of quiet arguments, cold looks, unanswered messages. The plans for kids kept getting pushed to later, until later just didn't exist anymore. The whole building was celebrating Christmas with family. He was celebrating with his own echo. That night, as he stared at the decorations shining on his desk and his tired reflection in the window, Marcus felt the weight of a legacy built for the world, but not for the dinner table. The perfect blazer, the Swiss watch, the $1 million view couldn't drown out the feeling that he'd gone very far, but drifted very far from what really matters. And if you're someone who likes stories that show the other side of wealth, arrogance, and Christmas, stick around and subscribe, because Marcus's life was about to take a turn he never saw coming. And it would all start with something as simple as a forgotten envelope on his desk. When he finally sat down to face the pile of documents, Something broke the pattern of reports, contracts, and million-dollar proposals. In the middle of leather folders and logo-stamped envelopes, there was a plain, slightly crumpled white envelope addressed by hand to Santa. No company logo, no sender. Just crooked kid handwriting and a Christmas tree sticker in the corner. It didn't belong to the world of wealth and power Marcus lived in, but it grabbed his attention with a strange force, like that fragile paper was carrying a turning point he couldn't see yet. He opened it slowly, with the same care he'd used to sign a billion-dollar deal. Inside was a piece of notebook paper, folded into quarters, written in blue pen, some letters rubbed thin from an eraser. The message was simple, direct, full of humility and hurt. Dear Santa, please send me a dad. My mom works a lot, and she's always tired. I just want to see her smile again. Love, Lily, 7 years old. No request for an expensive toy, no trip, no long list of presents. Nothing like the arrogance of someone who always wants more. Just a child asking for the one thing all his money had never managed to give him. A family. Marcus read every line again, like he was staring at an X-ray of his own emotional legacy. He'd ended up with buildings, stocks, headlines, but no recent photos in any picture frame. While snow fell outside and Christmas lights flickered in the window's reflection, those words started poking at a place inside him that had been asleep for years. A void that all his years of power had never filled. Who was Lily? Who was this always tired mother? How had that letter, written by a girl invisible to the world, ended up right here on the desk of the loneliest billionaire on that floor? Marcus couldn't just drop the letter and go back to the numbers. The more he tried to refocus, the more Lily's shaky handwriting came back to him. What was the point of so much wealth, so much power, if he couldn't ignore the request of a little girl who only wanted to see her mother smile on Christmas? He called in Patricia, his trusted assistant, the one who knew not only the company, but also the quiet back hallways of the building. With a tone much softer than the one he used in meetings, he showed her the letter and asked for help figuring out where it had come from. Patricia was surprised to see Marcus so moved by something so simple, but she didn't question it. She started with the basics. Talked to reception, the lobby guard, the guy in charge of internal mail. Nobody remembered seeing a child upstairs, but someone mentioned that sometimes the kids of the cleaning staff show up early while their moms finish their shift. Little by little, cross-checking entry times, badge logs, and offhand comments from the hall, the puzzle started to take shape. The turning point Marcus felt coming wasn't in a big spreadsheet. It was hiding in the tiny details nobody usually looked at. By the end of the day, Patricia came back with a piece of information that looked small but carried enormous weight for Marcus's legacy. Lily was the daughter of Grace Chun, widowed 4 years ago, part of the night cleaning crew in that very building, working 2 jobs to support her daughter. The humility and effort of that little family stood in brutal contrast to the quiet arrogance on the upper floors, where Christmas meant bonuses and expensive parties. Marcus sat in silence for a long time, holding the letter more carefully than he held any contract. Now he knew who they were, but he had no idea how to approach them. Until an idea started forming. Simple, powerful, tied to Christmas Eve itself. The idea arrived like someone flipping on a light in a forgotten room. If he wanted to meet Lily and Grace without showing up as some billionaire savior, he needed to create a space where they wouldn't feel small. So he decided to quietly organize a Christmas party for everyone who worked in the building, including the teams that almost never got invited to anything. He asked the event staff for a celebration that felt more human, less about status and awards, more about real people. Even so, it was impossible not to see the mark of wealth in every detail. Towering trees, lights strung across the lobby, a generous buffet, live music. His power was opening the doors, but for the first time, his goal wasn't to flaunt arrogance. It was to create an encounter. In the days before the party, Marcus spent more time in the lobby than on his glass floor. He watched lighting tests, stage setup, quick band rehearsals, the constant flow of vendors. Every time one of the cleaners crossed the lobby pushing a trash cart or hauling bags, he felt a different kind of discomfort. He realized how many Christmases he'd walked right past those faces without seeing them. It was like this night had become a mirror for his own life, showing how he'd always been surrounded by people, but separated from them by an invisible social elevator. On the eve of the party, Patricia came into his office with her laptop, open to the building's internal system. She pulled up Grace John's time card, her ID photo, and next to it, a blurry still of Lily captured by the cameras when she came to wait for her mom in the lobby. "That's them," Patricia said, pointing at the screen. Marcus stared at those faces that were anonymous to the rest of the world, but had now climbed over the walls of his company and into something much more personal. Later that night, as he went down to the lobby, he saw Grace arrive for her shift with a sleepy Lily at her side, both of them sharing the same thin coat against the cold. He memorized the way they walked together, shoulder to shoulder. On the night of the party, Marcus got there before everyone else. No tie, blazer open, trying to look less like Mr. Sullivan and more like Marcus. He walked around the room watching the groups, managers in circles talking targets, receptionists taking pictures by the tree, security guards finally relaxing, kids running between tables with plastic cups of soda. He overheard bits of conversations about holiday pay, bills, vacations, little dreams. When the door opened and he saw Grace walk in, wearing the same warm coat and Lily clutching her hand, he recognized them immediately, not just from a blurry picture, but from the mix of humility and hope in their eyes. His heart started pounding in a way that felt almost teenage. He began walking toward them with the clear sense that this Christmas night might become the biggest turning point of his life. Marcus didn't walk up with that tone of a man used to giving orders. He stopped a few steps away, took a deep breath, and for a moment just watched. Lily held her mother's hand tight, her eyes fixed on the giant tree in the middle of the lobby, pointing at the lights like she'd stepped into one of those Christmas movies she only ever saw on TV. Grace, on the other hand, kept her shoulders slightly hunched, like someone who is not sure she really belongs in a place where wealth seems to drip from every detail. Then he stepped closer with a simple smile, introduced himself only as Marcus, and complimented the red ribbon in Lily's hair, creating a space where his invisible badge of power could stay for a few minutes outside the conversation. Slowly, the first barrier started to melt. Lily talked about school, her friends, the Christmas concert she'd be singing in, how she dreamed of a night when her mom wasn't exhausted. As she spoke, her hands flew everywhere. She laughed out loud, her eyes roaming the whole room, like she wanted to memorize every light and every song. Grace tried to keep her emotions under control, but the deep tiredness in her face and under her eyes said more than any sentence. Every now and then, she apologized for small things, the worn coat, the fact that her daughter was too talkative, as if she had to justify their presence in a place where society, as invisible arrogance, had taught her people like her didn't really belong. At one point, when the music dipped and the room noise softened, Marcus felt he couldn't keep what he was carrying in his pocket any longer. He asked for a moment, took out the folded envelope, and showed them the letter he had found on his desk. He didn't read it out loud, but he summed it up gently, saying those words had crossed walls, floors, and pierced a layer of ice inside him he didn't even realize was still there. Grace flushed immediately, hand over her mouth, apologizing as if she'd overstepped by letting her daughter write something so intimate. It was the humility of someone who's spent a lifetime trying not to bother anyone. But Marcus didn't pull out a check. He didn't offer an expensive gift or a solution wrapped in wealth. Instead of buying a quick fix, he offered something he hadn't practiced in years: presence. He said calmly that if they felt comfortable, He'd like to be around a bit more at Christmas, not as a savior, but as someone who also needed company. He turned to Lily and asked what a perfect Christmas would look like for her. The answer came without thinking. Seeing my mom really smile, not worn out, not worry about bills. Those words hit Marcus with the force of a silent turning point, stronger than any negotiation he'd ever closed. While the party rolled on around them, with toasts, loud laughter, talk about bonuses and goals, Marcus stepped away from that circle, feeling something strange shifting inside him. It wasn't just about what he could do for them. It was about who he might become because of this unspoken invitation from Christmas. To be someone who chooses to stay instead of just passing through. He still didn't have a clear plan, didn't know the next step, but he knew that night had opened a door he couldn't shut again. And the next chance to walk through it would come in a place very different from marble floors and gala lights. The following week, the company's rhythm stayed the same: meetings, charts, targets, people talking bonuses like the world spun only around that. But Marcus's mind was somewhere else. In the middle of an ordinary day, Lily showed up at the building lobby holding a folded piece of paper like it was something precious. When he came down, she stretched out her hands and gave him the school flyer for her Christmas concert, her name circled in bright marker. Grace, standing beside her, apologized for the too simple invitation, saying she knew his life was full of important events. Marcus looked at that cheap piece of paper like he was receiving a ticket to the most important moment of that Christmas. On the night of the concert, he decided against the formal outfit he wore to business dinners. He chose a regular coat, a scarf, no flashy watch, like he wanted his wealth to stay in the background. The neighborhood where the school sat was very different from the streets his driver usually cruised through. Sidewalks with half-shoveled snow, small houses with improvised Christmas lights, some windows completely dark. Inside the school gym, the decorations were made of crepe paper, crooked cardboard stars, and a string of lights that died every few seconds. The air smelled like hot chocolate, coffee, popcorn. Tired parents held up old phones to record. Teachers tugged at costumes with tape and safety pins. Everything was simple, yet it carried a kind of power he'd never found in any luxury hotel ballroom. When the children's choir walked onto the tiny stage, Lily stood in the front row, wearing a simple dress and the same red ribbon in her hair, now matched with a slightly crumpled bow at her waist. She scanned the crowd, searching for Marcus like she needed proof he'd really come. When she finally spotted him, she gave him a smile so wide that, for a few seconds, it outshone every wealthy billboard he'd ever seen. The music started, a Christmas song about hope, home, full tables, people finding each other again after hard times. As those small voices filled the gym, something inside him gave way. It wasn't the billionaire watching. It was the man who, for the first time in years, felt like he was part of something real. In the applause that followed, Marcus saw the future he'd been building up to that point was very different from the kind of story this Christmas was trying to write in his life. He saw Grace wiping away a quiet tear of pride. He saw Lily giving him a tiny wave, as if asking silently, "Did you see? Are you really here?" He answered with a calm smile and a nod, feeling a strange mix of humility and gratitude. If this moment already stirred something in you, maybe think about the scene in your own life that made you question what real wealth is. Sometimes sharing those turning points helps other people see their own story differently. As the gym emptied and the cold night slipped back in through the doors, Lily ran to him with a disarming naturalness and made an invitation that would open that door in his life even wider. Outside, the wind bit the hands of anyone foolish enough to go without gloves. But on the way out of the school, Lily talked like she couldn't even feel the cold. As soon as the gym began to empty, she ran up to Marcus, still wearing her red ribbon, cheeks flushed from the performance, and fired off. "Do you want to come have dinner at our place with us?" The question came so quickly, he didn't have time to think like a billionaire with a full calendar. Embarrassed, Grace tried to cut in right away, saying, "Our place is really simple, nothing like your life of wealth." But he didn't hesitate. He said it would be an honor. Right there, the real power wasn't in his money. It was in choosing to show up for that Christmas night that was just beginning to take shape. Their building sat on a narrow street, with a few cars parked along the curb and some Christmas decorations hanging from the windows of old apartments. As they climbed the stairs, Marcus caught the smells of food drifting from other doors, heard kids running down the hallway, TVs tuned to holiday specials. When Grace unlocked her door, the first thing that hit him wasn't the look of the place. It was the smell of pasta with jarred sauce and garlic in the pan. The dish she made when she was too exhausted to invent something different. The living room was small. The couch was worn. The chairs at the table didn't match, but you could see an obvious effort to make everything beautiful. A Christmas print tablecloth, 2 cheap decorations on the shelf, a child's drawing taped to the fridge with the words, "Our home, our world." Here, humility wasn't the absence of wealth, it was care in every detail. During dinner, Lily barely stopped to breathe. She jumped from school stories to Christmas plans to funny comments about the concert. Every so often, she'd ask Marcus what Christmas was like up there on his floor, with that curiosity of a child trying to imagine a completely different world. Grace, in turn, bounced between shy smiles and small apologies. For the simple food, the tiny apartment, the chipped plates she had to use, because there wasn't another. It was like some old voice fed for years by society's hidden arrogance kept telling her that people like her don't invite people like him over. Marcus found himself wanting to contradict that voice the whole time, praising the food, laughing at their stories, asking more about their everyday life. At some point, while Lily got up from the table to go grab something really important from her room, Marcus let his eyes move slowly around the space. Without her animated voice filling the air, the details started to gain weight. He saw an electric bill folded under a kid's magnet on the fridge, a letter from school about a parent-teacher meeting taped up with a piece of Scotch tape, a pair of small sneakers, still damp, drying near the rattling heater. On the shelf, there was an old photo of Grace and a man walking arm in arm, laughing in some ordinary park, trees in the background, and that kind of simple happiness that never makes the business magazines. Every object seemed to tell a piece of a story no financial report would ever show. For years, he spent his energy trying to prove to the world that he was big. Buildings, numbers, headlines, events. Now, sitting at the table in a small kitchen, surrounded by water rings on the wood and tiny signs of daily struggle, he felt the real weight of life was in places like this, where what holds everything together isn't wealth, but care. From time to time, Grace shot him a quick look, still checking if he was comfortable, if he wasn't secretly judging everything as too much or not enough. Inside, Marcus was thinking the exact opposite. This contrast was proof that the power he'd been hoarding might finally be able to serve something that made sense, if he had the courage to keep showing up. That's when he heard Lily's voice calling from down the hallway, with the urgency of someone guarding a treasure behind a half-open door. Lily didn't keep still for long after dinner. As soon as she finished her juice, she grabbed Marcus by the hand, like she was afraid he'd disappear before seeing what she wanted to show him. "Come see my room," she said, barely giving him time to answer. The hallway was narrow. The floor creaked under each step, and the walls were marked with old little handprints and faded drawings. But you could see the love in every detail. A makeshift hook for her tiny coat, a little string of Christmas lights taped up, the faint smell of kid soap mixed with budget fabric softener. With each step he took into that space, the sleek, cold corridors of his own apartment felt further away. When they walked into her room, the scene had a kind of beauty you won't find in any catalog. The simple bed was covered with a star-patterned blanket, colors already faded from so many washes. The pillowcase had a cartoon character barely visible, worn down by time. A stuffed animal missing one ear lay in the corner like an old childhood soldier still standing guard. On the dresser, a few beaten-up toys were lined up with the careful touch of someone who knows they can lose a single one. A figure with peeling paint, a drawing notebook filled with colorful scribbles, a music box that didn't quite play right anymore. In the middle of it all sat a picture frame that seemed to light up the room more than any of the Christmas lights on the wall. Lily picked up the frame with both hands, slowly, like she was presenting something sacred. Her eyes spoke first, then her voice. It was a photo of a smiling man with gentle features and a look that seemed to hug Lily and Grace, even from a distance. "This is my dad," she said, her voice a little softer, almost respectful. For a moment, Marcus felt the air grow heavier, like the contrast between all the wealth he'd piled up and that simple story built on love, then cut short, had become visible in the room. That unknown man, in ordinary clothes and with an open smile, seemed to have left a space in that room as big as the one Marcus carried inside his own chest without admitting it. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full of feeling. Lily looked at the photo, then at Marcus, like she was tying two worlds together with the thinnest possible thread. Then, with the devastating natural honesty only a child has, she asked, "Was it Santa who sent you to us?" There was no irony in her voice, no calculation, no hidden request for presents. Just the humble faith of someone who still believes Christmas can bring a good turning point, even after so much loss. The question cut through any leftover arrogance inside him. His throat tightened, his eyes burned, like his whole body had decided to answer before his mind could. Marcus could have dodged it with a joke, a polished line, one of those detours adults take to avoid what hurts. But for the first time in a very long time, he chose a kind of honesty money can't buy. He looked at the photo of Lily's dad, then at her, then toward the bedroom door, as if lining up the pieces in his own head, and answered gently that maybe Santa had just made sure the right letter landed on the right desk at the exact moment he needed to wake up. Lily didn't ask for more details. She just threw herself into his arms and hugged him as if she'd found a missing piece. As he hugged her back, he smelled the simple soap in her hair, heard the TV murmuring in the living room, the clink of dishes as Grace washed up in the kitchen, and saw the weak glow of Christmas lights reflecting in the picture frame's glass. All those ordinary things nobody would ever post about turned, for Marcus, into something bigger than any conference room full of people hanging on his every word. In that small hug, in that small bedroom, he realized the real power of Christmas wasn't in how much he owned, but in who he chose to become from that night on. When Marcus left their building that night, he didn't just go down a few flights of stairs. He stepped down from a comfortable place of arrogance onto the solid ground of humility he'd forgotten existed. The man who, at the beginning of this story, saw Christmas as just another day off, now walked away carrying more than a child's hug. He carried a quiet decision to use his wealth not as a wall, but as a bridge. Not to put Grace and Lily up on a charity pedestal, but to walk beside them as someone who finally understood that true power is choosing to be where your heart pulls you, not just where your status says you should be. His bank account hadn't changed at all, but the man holding it was already becoming someone else. And you? How many times have you found yourself racing after targets, bills, deadlines, trying to prove your worth in a world that measures everything in numbers, while someone close to you just wants 5 minutes of your attention? Maybe there isn't a physical letter written to you starting with "Dear Santa," but how many silent requests are around you that you just haven't noticed yet? The exhausted mom in your family, the friend who always says, "I'm fine," and you can feel they're not, the son or daughter who only wants you to sit on the couch and really listen. You can have little money, and a lot of love. You can have a lot of wealth and a huge emptiness at home. The question is, what kind of life are you building day after day without even realizing it? If this story stirred something in you, if at any point you saw yourself in Marcus, Lily, or Grace, maybe it's time to choose a small turning point in your own Christmas. What concrete step could you take today? The answer in someone's life. A phone call you've been postponing. A visit that always gets pushed to later. An apology. An I love you that never comes out because your pride speaks louder. Write in the comments which part of this story hit you the hardest, what lesson you're taking with you, and if you want, share what change you feel you need to make in your own journey. Sometimes saying it out loud is the first step to turning a good intention into a real turning point. And if you like this kind of narrative that pokes at your heart talking about wealth, power, humility, arrogance, and Christmas without makeup, but with truth, I want to invite you to stay close. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and follow the next stories. Each video here is an invitation to look at your own life with new eyes, not to feel smaller, but to realize how much time you still have to write different endings for chapters that seemed already decided. Who knows? Maybe your next big turnaround starts in the exact moment you hit that subscribe button and decide to walk with us through these stories that, deep down, are about all of us.